Sterling is still your champion. Granted, in this weird space where people still haven't quite warmed up to him, but he's obviously very talented. You saw a lot of call-outs, and he was just, in the post-fight speech or interview, he was just, letting everyone catch strays. So what makes the most sense for him now? I don't think a Dillashaw rematch makes any sense, so we can put that out of the way. Is it Henry Cejudo? Is it Chito Vera? Or is it Sean O'Malley?
I think Chito's the most deserving, and I think this would be the best way to correct the idea that, if O'Malley had a chance to leapfrog the whole division, and if they went O'Malley next, nobody's going to argue. That's promotionally, the right move is O'Malley next. That's why you put him in that spot. You don't own the judges. There's no conspiracy in this case from my vantage point, in my opinion. So O'Malley is the right fight for the promotion to make. But is there any type of way that you could slow that because O'Malley didn't clearly win this in everybody's eyes and plug in Chito Vera, who's more deserving, and kind of fix the problem with your whole scenario? You could do that. But, they're not going to always make the decision that makes the most fair. They're going to make the decision that makes the most business. O'Malley next completes that plan, and it's huge business. But Henry Cejudo next is interesting. It is a wild card. It would force O'Malley to take a step back. And if O'Malley is going to be forced to take a step back, is the only fight that makes the most sense. Chito rematch for the chance to be the next title challenger after that. It's interesting because what you'd be doing is rewarding Cejudo for going away on his own terms, which the UFC hates. So there's always that part in the back of your mind that when Cejudo does officially ready to come back, will they make him go through the gauntlet a bit to get there? This would be stopping your prized recruit here in O'Malley from, going full bloom potentially by sliding in Henry. And so I think at the end of the day, that's why it's not going to happen, Luke. Because if they needed Henry Cejudo's star power right now, they could do it in a second. They don't need it. The division's deep as hell, and you've got O'Malley next. So I just talked you up on all three options. The promotion at the end of the day is going to make the best move for the promotion. And as long as nobody's injured, Sean O'Malley is going to fight for that title next. And then it's going to make, if he wins the title, him against Vera so much more interesting. And I think Henry will be back within the next year. But I think the UFC has to be strategic on when to do that. And I don't think they're going to be in the position to try to reward him and have him cut in front of a guy who could be the biggest star in the game if he keeps winning. So there's the truth at the end of the day, Luke.
I almost want Cejudo to get it. In the sense that I agree with you that they probably won't because it would be rewarding him or whatever, but I almost would love it under the idea that I would love to see a Chito versus O'Malley rematch for 5 rounds. I would love that. I think that would be so interesting because here's the reality, man. O'Malley can strike his ass off. He is so good, powerful, quick, crafty, can cover distance very well. I mean, he's so good at it. But Chito Vera has one of the most legendary chins and overall durability in the game, and he is maybe the king of the 5-rounders. They called Butterbean the king of the 4-rounders, right? Well, old Chito is the king of the 5-rounders, dude. You give that guy 25 minutes, and by the 21st minute, he is fucking you up. Like, that guy is amazing with that. So I would love to see that for that reason. But if we're talking deservedness, BC... Okay. To me, it's got to be Chito Vera.
I've got 2 things to say. One, when we get Butterbean on Room Service Diaries, within the first 2 questions, I'm going to ask him his best story of just shutting a bathroom down. Look, yes, where they had to remodel after he was done. Okay, but number 2, there is a way that everybody wins. The UFC gets its cake and eats it too. What's fair is fair gets corrected, and it's one of the things that I hate the most: an unnecessary interim title. But if you put Chito O'Malley for an interim title that wasn't necessary and made it a pay-per-view main event, you'd kind of fix all your areas if you still wanted to do Sterling Cejudo next. Wouldn't you, Luke? Wouldn't you kind of fix everything with that?
You might. But again, it runs up with the UFC. I mean, they did it for St. Pierre. Well, again, now it's a post-St. Pierre world where they don't want to do that because St. Pierre was like, yeah, I'll be back. Oh, no, I won't be back, right? And Cejudo could take this and retire again if he wanted to. Like, what's to stop him? It's a tough call. It'll be very interesting to see. But if they give it to O'Malley, I think Sandhagen versus Chito would work. I think Chito versus Henry Cejudo. Henry versus Corey. as a fight would work. There's a lot of different ways they could go, but I just feel like O'Malley, he should be very proud of his efforts. Like, there's nothing he should hang his head about whatsoever. Like, yeah, you fought a very good guy and not all of it went your way, but he was, I wrote this on Twitter, he was a worthy adversary. But I like the maturity that Alexa Grasso showed over her last win, being like, you know what? I think I want one more 5-rounder before I ask for a title shot, right? That's smart, not rushing your way there. And certainly on the feet, O'Malley's got something for everybody. But in the top of the division, where the fights go 25 minutes and they're very well rounded and they're super specialists in certain parts of the game as well, right? It's a combination of both. Man, you just can't rush that because you just, I don't know. Like, so it's a hard thing to do. And like, oh, what about the paycheck? Sean apparently makes a lot of money outside of fighting anyway. So,
Luke, true or false? True or false? If the UFC felt like they wanted to build behind Sterling and make him a star, then they would give him Cejudo next. But they don't. And that's the reality of it.
No, I don't think giving him Cejudo turns anything into a star. No.
If they felt, but when you, obviously this is a moot point in the eyes of O'Malley's coming on next in terms of star value, it doesn't matter. But what's Sterling's issue with the public? Is it the fact that he's got incomplete wins now, 2 in his last 3, or is it just that he's really corny afterwards? Because look, he was pretty corny after the fight, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, he says a lot of some, I wouldn't say a lot, but he says some goofy stuff on occasion. So, he just doesn't necessarily have that power in the way that Chael might. That's one. But okay, there's a couple things. One, he was good before, but then he had some noteworthy losses, like viciously losing to Moraes. So there was this comeback that people didn't want him to have, which he did. Jan's fans Petr Yan is an amazing fighter. I thought he was going to win. I thought he deserved to win. But his fans are like wicked annoying. Like, they're super annoying, right? They're always just chirping about how he's been done wrong or whatever. And so the fight going the way that it did the first time just sent that into overdrive. You mentioned taking a picture with the belt and everything else. And then he wins the second one outright. It was kind of a reluctant turn. And then he compounds it with being like, oh, I helped TJ dislocate his shoulder. Well, like, yeah, technically, but that thing was so fragile, like, you can't really claim to have done it.